Have you ever felt like something's shifting inside of you, but you can't explain it? Like your soul is stirring in the middle of the night, whispering prayers you didn't even know you were capable of praying. You try to go about your day as usual. You laugh when others laugh. You smile when you're expected to. But deep inside, something is breaking. Or maybe, something is being born. People around you seem farther away than ever. You feel isolated, misunderstood, out of place, even around your closest friends or family. But you can't put your finger on what changed. You're not broken. You're not crazy. And no, you're not being punished. You're being pulled into a spiritual shift, into divine alignment, into a dimension you never imagined you'd touch. For the first time in your life, you're beginning to feel what it truly means to seek God, not just through tradition or routine, but from a place of raw surrender. Not because someone told you to, but because your heart is crying out for it, because your spirit knows it was made for more. When was the last time you stopped everything, closed your eyes, and just whispered, "God, I don't know what you're doing, but I know you're doing something. This isn't just anxiety. This isn't just stress. What you're feeling is spiritual awakening, a divine breaking, a dismantling of the life you built in your own strength, so that God can now build something new, something sacred, something eternal. Some call it the wilderness. Some call it the valley. But what if this is the very place where God does his best work? You see, God doesn't always show up in loud miracles or lightning bolts. Sometimes he whispers, and sometimes he allows the silence to be his loudest answer, not to punish you, but to position you, not to confuse you, but to call you. Because here's the truth. When God wants to awaken someone, he starts by disrupting everything that feels comfortable. So, if you're suddenly waking up at 3 a.m., if your dreams have started to shift, if your prayers feel deeper, more desperate, more real than ever before, you're not alone. And this is not coincidence. God is working. He's stretching you. He's calling you closer. And if you're watching this video right now, it's not by mistake. This message didn't find you randomly. It found you because you're ready to hear what your soul has been trying to say. You've been saying, "Lord, show me a sign." Well, what if this video is your sign? What if everything you've gone through, every tear, every loss, every unanswered prayer, was not to destroy you but to bring you to this exact moment, to this question? What if your pain was never punishment, but preparation? You've tried to go back to who you were, to what used to feel like home. You visited the places that once gave you joy, only to feel a strange emptiness in your chest. The laughter doesn't land the same. The conversations feel hollow. Even your favorite memories seem like faded photographs, beautiful, but no longer real. It's as if something inside of you no longer fits within the frame of your old life. And the harder you try to return to the familiar, the more lost you feel. That ache in your chest, that silent grief, that's not punishment. That's the cost of awakening. Because when your spirit begins to shift, when your soul starts reaching for something deeper, everything shallow starts to fall away. You may not have asked for this. You may not have prayed for this. But your spirit did. Long before you could form the words, long before your mouth could say it, your soul was already crying out for change. And heaven heard it. This is the beginning of your spiritual transformation. This is the divine disconnection that always comes before the sacred reconnection. It feels like loneliness, but it's actually realignment. It feels like loss, but it's preparation. God is calling you out of what no longer serves your destiny and into a season that will demand a new version of you. A version rooted in truth, not tradition. A version led by spirit, not survival. You feel like something is breaking inside you, but what's actually breaking is everything that was never truly you. The masks, the attachments, the false sense of identity, the roles you thought you had to play to be loved, accepted, and safe. This is the inner collapse that precedes the rise. The invisible breaking that comes when you've been chosen for a higher calling. And yes, it hurts deeply, because the people around you don't understand why you've changed. They say, "You're distant, you've changed, you're not yourself." But what they don't realize is, you were never fully yourself before. You were surviving, performing, pleasing, pretending. But now, something divine is awakening inside of you, something that refuses to go back to sleep. So you sit with this pain. You carry it quietly. You wrestle in the midnight hours with the question, what's happening to me? Why does everything I once loved now feel like it's slipping away? And here's the answer. Because it is. What once sustained you is no longer enough to carry you. You've outgrown the shell of your former self. And that ache, that sacred discomfort, that is the pain of the calling. This is how God begins a new season in someone's life. Not with fanfare, but with fire. Not with clarity, but with confusion. He pulls you into the wilderness, not to abandon you, but to meet you there, to reintroduce you to who you really are, to awaken the version of you that was buried under expectations, trauma, and fear, the version that remembers the sound of his voice, the version that knows the difference between religion and real spiritual intimacy. You've been marked, you've been set apart, and the pain you're walking through isn't a sign that God is far from you. It's proof that he's closer than ever, because only those who are truly called experience this kind of inner shaking, this kind of invisible breaking, this kind of transformational disruption that forces you to face yourself and find him again. You've been taught your whole life that pain is weakness, that sadness is a sign of failure, that breaking means something is wrong. But that's not the truth. Not here, not now, not with what you're going through, because what you're feeling, this overwhelming tension, this invisible weight pressing against your chest, it's not the end of you. It's the beginning of something sacred. You are not falling apart. You are being taken apart with divine intention. You're not crumbling. You're being rebuilt, one surrendered piece at a time. This is not chaos. This is sacred construction, a holy undoing. Sometimes, before God can reveal who you really are, he has to first strip away who you never were. And that hurts, because it means letting go of everything you once used to define yourself. The labels, the masks, the roles you played just to feel safe, loved, or accepted, they no longer fit. They're disintegrating, not to leave you exposed, but to set you free. This process is not weakness. It's spiritual transformation. It's not a collapse. It's the breaking of the shell that was suffocating your spirit. The world may look at your tears and call it a breakdown, but heaven calls it a breaking open. And what's emerging from that opening is the real you, the healed you, the aligned you. Every tear you've cried has watered something deeper within you, something eternal, something pure, and the losses you've faced, they were never random. They were surgical extractions, removing what was blocking your growth, your truth, your voice. Sometimes we have to lose what we thought we needed to finally meet who we were created to become. That ache you carry, it's not meaningless. It's the divine alarm clock of destiny. That discomfort in your spirit, it's a sign that you're being stretched into a higher version of yourself. It's not punishment. It's purpose in disguise. God is not trying to destroy you. He's reconstructing the foundation of your faith, realigning your soul, and teaching you, painfully, beautifully, how to depend on him, not just when life is good, but when everything seems to be falling apart. So if you're in that space where nothing feels stable, where your heart feels raw and your mind is overwhelmed, breathe. You are not alone. You are not forgotten. You are not weak. You are being rebuilt by the hands of the Creator himself. And this version of you, this post-storm version, will not need to pretend, to chase approval, or to wear masks. This version will speak truth, walk in alignment, and live with clarity. You're not losing yourself. You're finding yourself, maybe for the very first time. And everything you're letting go of, it was never really yours to begin with. This is healing at the soul level. This is spiritual reconstruction. This is what it means to be called, broken, and built back stronger, not harder, not colder, but softer, and more surrendered. And if any part of this has pierced your heart like an arrow, if you feel seen, if you feel spoken to, then take a moment and say it in the comments. I feel this, because you're not the only one going through this. And the moment you speak it, others like you will begin to find you, and you'll realize you were never really walking alone. There comes a moment in every spiritual journey when things start to collapse all at once. You look around and it feels like everything you've built is slipping through your fingers. Your job suddenly feels meaningless. Relationships that once felt safe now feel unstable. Your emotions fluctuate in ways you can't predict. Your mind is tired. Your body aches. Your soul feels like it's standing in the middle of a storm with no shelter. But what if I told you, this is exactly how the awakening begins. Before a soul is awakened, it is shaken. And what looks like collapse on the outside is actually alignment on the inside. You're not cursed. You're not abandoned. You're being called. And one of the first signs of a true spiritual awakening is when everything that once gave you a false sense of control begins to unravel. It's not because you're doing something wrong. It's because you're finally aligned with what's right. You're being stripped of what is temporary so that you can receive what is eternal. This is the season where the universe begins to deconstruct everything that's no longer in harmony with your calling. And it hurts, because you're losing things you thought you needed. You're letting go of identities you spent years building. You're mourning a version of yourself that you thought would carry you forward. But all of this is preparation. Before rebirth, there is always death. Before revelation, there is always silence. This is the part no one talks about. The spiritual collapso before the breakthrough. The confusion. The emptiness. The loneliness. It feels like you're walking through darkness, but in reality, you're being led to light. It's just that your eyes are still adjusting. You are not here by accident. This path, this pain, it's part of the process. And those breakdowns you're experiencing, they're actually breakthroughs in disguise. The universe is not trying to break you. It's realigning you, piece by piece, layer by layer. And you're not going crazy. You're waking up to the lies you believed, waking up to the systems you obeyed, waking up to the patterns you repeated, waking up to your truth. And that truth is this: you were chosen, not to be perfect, not to impress, but to awaken. And once you wake up, truly wake up, there's no going back. You're here to break cycles. You're here to remember who you really are. You're here to walk in purpose, not performance. You're here to disrupt everything false with the weight of your truth. That's why everything around you is shaking, because you've stopped settling. You've stopped agreeing with what was never meant for you. And now, the old is collapsing, so that the new can be born. But it doesn't happen all at once. It happens in pieces. First, you lose your peace. Then you lose your certainty. Then, you lose the desire to pretend. And right in that space, between the death of who you were and the birth of who you're becoming, that's where you meet your purpose. Not the version of purpose the world sells you, but the kind that's divine, the kind that humbles you, the kind that costs you. The kind that awakens something holy inside of you, something ancient, something eternal. You're not here just to survive. You're here to awaken. You're here to carry light into dark places. You're here to live from the inside out. And even if no one else understands your process, you will, in time. And when you do, you'll stop fighting the fall and start embracing the rise. Now, it starts to make sense, doesn't it? You're not falling apart. You're finally falling into alignment. All this time, you thought you were losing control, but what you were actually losing were the layers that were never really you. The roles, the expectations, the noise. What looked like failure was actually freedom. What felt like abandonment was alignment. And what broke your heart was what cracked it open, so your soul could finally breathe. You're not losing your life. You're finding your soul. This pain, this confusion, this divine unraveling, it was all part of the plan. Each tear you've shed, each unanswered prayer, each sleepless night, was not a sign of weakness. It was a signal, a pulse from heaven reminding you, you were never meant to live asleep. You were never meant to fit into a version of life that was too small for your calling. You've been carried here by grace, pushed by pain, led by something deeper than logic. And now, for the first time, you can feel it, the shift. You are not who you were at the start of this video. Your heart is more open, your questions are more honest, and your spirit is starting to remember why it came here in the first place. Because this moment, this message, this frequency was sent for you. Everything you've walked through wasn't meant to destroy you. It was meant to deliver you into this moment, this awakening, this calling. The chaos wasn't random. The silence wasn't empty. It was all leading you here. And now you have a choice. You can pretend you didn't feel it, scroll past, go back to sleep, back to your old life, or you can surrender, awaken, begin again, not with answers, but with awareness. You didn't stumble across this video by accident. You were summoned. The timing isn't random. The message isn't vague. Your soul is being recalibrated right now, in this very breath. There is a frequency that only the chosen can hear. And if this resonated with you, if it stirred something deep within your chest, you're hearing it now. This isn't the end. It's just the beginning. What you thought was the breakdown of your life was actually the beginning of your legacy. And as powerful as this moment is, there's something even deeper you need to understand. Something that goes beyond pain, beyond awakening, and straight into the reason why you were called right now, at this exact moment in history. Because your soul didn't just wake up on accident, it was programmed to awaken before you were even born. That's what the next video will reveal. In it, I'll uncover the 3 supernatural signs that prove your awakening was written in your spiritual blueprint, long before you ever took your first breath. These are not coincidences. These are confirmations. And once you see them, you'll never unsee them. But for now, let's anchor this moment in your heart. If this message touched your soul, don't leave in silence. Help this message reach others like you who are still searching, still hurting, still on the edge of awakening. Like this video, it pushes the algorithm to reach others like you. Comment, "I awakened," if you felt this message resonate inside your chest. Share this with someone who needs to hear it today. And subscribe, because this is just the beginning of the frequency of the chosen.